Hey everyone, and welcome back to Joey's Retro Handhelds. I'm Joey, and today we're going to be taking a look at another special older device, the Anbernic RG351P. Full disclosure again, as you could probably tell, this was sent to me for review by Temu, and as before, I think by now most people have heard of Temu and have seen a lot of people using coupons to get devices extremely cheap. New users to the app get first purchase discounts like a $100 coupon bundle using the link in my description or the code DKE7227 in the app. I'll have the code on screen for a bit now as well, or just check the description for everything you need to know. And now for the unboxing, we have to wear the right protection as opening these boxes is extremely dangerous. Fast forward to the good stuff, and it's super plastic feeling. I've never had one of these, so it's the first time seeing one and holding one, and it just feels like plastic, a lot like the RK2023 that I reviewed from Powkitty. But it feels nice in the same way that did. I can really see why people like this one already, and it's only been a few seconds. Let's do a quick tour of the device. Anbernic's D-pad here, and this one definitely feels more stiff and sharper than the recent Anbernic D-pads, so they've done a lot of upgrades in this department over the years. Start and select are nice and mushy, clicky face buttons which feel good, and then the usual sticks at the bottom which feel fine. On the back we have the grip pads, which I actually use quite a bit for these devices, so it's good to have. This is going to be a dedicated Game Boy Advance device for me, as you'll see why in a bit. Let's throw the specs up on screen and the price as well. It's $72 US before any coupons, which I tried before, and was able to get as low as $50-ish US. It's a steal for that price. So let's keep going. Very loud and clicky trigger buttons. I can see where Powkitty stole their inspiration from. OTG, headphone jack, and charging port at the top. Speakers, single SD card slot, and reset button on the bottom. And now the unfortunate part. We have buttons on the side. We have a power button on the left and the volume rocker on the right. I guess this is where Retroid got their inspiration from. I'm happy this isn't a normal thing or on many new handhelds, but yeah, please don't do this. I already know I'm not going to like this volume rocker at all, and I'll probably have to rely on hotkeys to change volume. Let's turn it on, and as usual, I'm just going to take a quick peek at the stock operating system, and then we'll come right back with Anbernic, which is the best custom firmware you can put on this device. Plus, I need my good branded SD card, as this one comes with an unbranded knockoff as usual. With the stock firmware here, it's a nice emulation station front end. I can see people being pretty happy with how this looks when booting it up. It comes with some games here on the 64 gig card, but we'll be replacing those with our own games as usual. Basically, it's a normal operating system using Emulation Station as its front end and for settings. And this is all Linux based. Let's try a game. Noticed after filming, you can see the waves on the LCD screen. It's something weird with my camera and this screen, so it's not the handheld. Everything looks crisp in actual hands, so I apologize for that as it will be noticeable in the upcoming footage. This isn't a Nintendo 64 device, so I wouldn't buy it for that if you're looking for it. Some Nintendo 64 games will run decently fine, but it won't be a great experience for most. Seems like on the stock operating system they left it as stretched for the aspect ratio, and that's just not my thing. Anyway, let me get Anbernic installed with my games and we'll come back with a better experience. And we're back, and this time with Anbernic. Much better. Now, as I said before, this is a Game Boy Advance only device for me. And that's thanks to the screen's aspect ratio. Jumping into a game here, and you can see it fills out the entire screen with no stretching, black bars, or anything. That's because it has a 3:2 aspect ratio, which is 320 by 480. The original Game Boy Advance was 160 by 240, so this is exactly pixel perfect, 2 times the screen of the original Game Boy Advance. It honestly doesn't get better than this for Game Boy Advance in this size form factor. Booting up another GBA game just to show it again, and yeah, this is absolutely perfect for GBA. But let's see how other platforms look in their native aspect ratios. We're not doing a stretched Mario here. Game Boy and Game Boy Color of course run just fine, and they added in an overlay so that you don't have the black bars on the side, which you can turn off if you'd like. I personally will be. NES and SNES are no different, minus the small bars. These are all platforms you could easily play on this device without concern. All depends on what you want to do more, as you might want a 4:3 aspect ratio device if you play more games outside of GBA. But if GBA is your top platform, with sometimes playing others, this device is perfect for that. PlayStation 1 is more of the same, and it's the last platform I'd say you could comfortably play here. Is it the absolute best PS1 experience? Not at all, but games run just fine, and you could have a decent enough time here. I personally wouldn't though, and would look at other devices. Now, let's move on to the bonus-ish platforms. That's basically platforms that would need some tweaks or changes to run well. And we'll start off with Nintendo 64, and like I showed before, it's still not great here. Mario Tennis is my usual test, and it's slow and choppy, and I tried out Super Mario 64 off screen, and I couldn't find a good core for it that would run well. So I just advise to avoid Nintendo 64 on here, unless you really want to go down a rabbit hole of tweaks. Nintendo DS works, but as usual, you'll have to find games that only use the one screen and no touchscreen in large amounts. otherwise your experience will just not be that great. I still wouldn't play Nintendo DS here, to be honest. I actually have one more video planned for this device because, like I said, it's going to be my dedicated Game Boy Advance handheld, but there's one specific thing missing that if you've been following me, you know I absolutely need, and it's Wi-Fi. Now, the fun thing about this device is it actually did have Wi-Fi during the first production, and there's actually a spot for it that you can solder into, but they removed it due to interference issues with sound. That's since been fixed thanks to modders figuring out what Wi-Fi chip and antenna to use, and so my next video is Joey's first solder experiment, putting Wi-Fi on the RG351P. Stay tuned for that. And that's going to be it for this one. Share in the comments below. Do you have an RG351P? Do you like it? I'm curious what people's thoughts are. Everyone loved the RG280V, as they let me know in the comments when I did that video not too long ago. And I know the RG351P is just as beloved thanks to this screen aspect ratio. I hope we do get a revision at some point. I wouldn't even mind just a better chip in the same form factor with just some upgraded materials. It's pretty easy, Anbernic. Do it. Please don't forget to like and sub to help the channel grow, and hope you all have a good one.